Hey East Texas, thanks for joining us today as we bring you ETFinalScore.com Friday pregame show. I'm your host, Trevor Pill, and these two guys are what we call football junkies. Chris Perry, beat writer for the Robert E. Lee Red Raiders, and Travis Yoasting, beat writer for the John Tyler Lions. They both will be helping you get a grip on what to expect tonight around East Texas underneath those stadium lights. Now, before we talk about some of the games going on tonight, let's talk a little bit about the team you cover, Chris, with the Red Raiders. Last week they beat Garland-Sachse. Some people call it an upset, some people don't. Was that an upset?
I believe it was, based on how well Garland-Sachse played last year, and they really had played this year. And they had scored an unbelievable amount of points. They were the defending district champions of the Garland district, which is what mainly this district is, except you throw Rockwall and Robert E. Lee into it. And Robert E. Lee hadn't won a district opener since 2009. I mean, they needed to get over the hump and to get some of that success to show that, hey, John Tyler wasn't a fluke. That second half where they played so well and they were able to beat their rivals, they were able to carry over and beat another district opponent. Because, like Piskey said, it would have made no difference to beat John Tyler and then to lose your district opener at home. So I think this is a nice little run they're on, and now we'll see if they can take it on the road against Rowlett.
Red Raider quarterback Zach Hall looked pretty dominant. How dominant was he?
What do you think, Travis?
Based on those numbers, it's quite impressive.
Now, were you surprised whenever you saw that the Red Raiders came out on top against Garland-Sachse?
Yeah, following on Twitter, following Chris's tweets, as the scores start rolling in, in the fourth quarter, they're starting to pull away, and you think, yeah, they're actually going to do this. Yeah,
I think caught a couple people by storm. Garland-Sachse, along with another team, was picked to win district, but the Red Raiders defeated them. Now, we'll talk about them a little later on throughout the show as they had their second game of district tonight as well. But let's move on to some of the TAP schools. We're going to call this a little quick round. There's four TAP schools, 4 games going on tonight. So I'll throw out a game. Y'all two discuss a little bit and talk about what's going on. All Saints at Prince of Peace.
Yeah, it's a big game for All Saints because, they haven't been in a district game in 2 years, and coming back into the TAPS district. It's going to be a big challenge going up against the triple option of Prince of Peace, but it's one that they've probably prepared for pretty well with the non-district slate that they played.
The Trojans, I think, are starting to show some things too. I mean, it's tough to start almost from scratch and then build it back up. I mean, whenever they weren't in a district, and now they are, like what Travis said. And I think that this is their chance to actually show the rest of the TAP schools, especially in Tyler, that they are for real. All
right, Gorman at Shelton.
Gorman's going to look to put up some big numbers again against Shelton. I know Shelton always has good athletes. They've got a good coach down there, but Gorman, I think, wants to make a good first impression on this district and get off on a winning start.
In the last couple of years, Dallas Shelton has been the team that's given up the points, and Gorman has been putting up a lot of points and a lot of yards and a lot of offense. So I believe that that's exactly what's going to take place again.
We got Grace at Frisco Legacy.
Yeah, for Grace, they're going to want to get off to a good start to get into a good run of form going into district because they've got a couple tough games going on the first couple games of district. Frisco's a newcomer to the league, and they've had a pretty good run the last few years, and it's going to be a good test for Grace.
Now we got the big game of Brook Hill at Dallas Christian. That's probably the highlight of the TAPS game. What can we expect from that one?
Well, Dallas Christian, if you're going to say who's the team that on paper, should win the district, it should be Dallas Christian. And they play old school football. Just line up, power, we're going to manhandle you. And that's so rare these days to do that still. So Coach Brasher, Bobby Brasher for Brook Hill, says they feel a little apprehensive because they've only played 2 ball games. They lost their game to Alto because of the lightning delay. So they've only played twice. They haven't played since they played Tenaha. That's a long time to just kind of be waiting around to be playing a physical opponent. So I think if they go and do what they want to do, which is run the football, control the clock, and put points on the board, they should be okay. But Dallas Christian, Travis, it just seems like they're one of the most physical team in this district.
They've been the class of the district the last couple of years, and really one of the best teams in the state at that division. And it's always tough to stop their offense. They will pound it at you, and it's tough to stop if you don't have the size and speed to keep up with them.
Now, we will have those scores on ETFinalScore.com on our scoreboard that we update regularly. Now, let's move on to Van and North Lamar. Both teams 4-0. A big thing is Van. They're going into, I would say, a weak district. Now, will this be the toughest match for Van headed into district?
Well, I think that they're looking into this as that last springboard into district. They've had a terrific non-district run. Anytime they can beat Lindale, which is their rivals just down the street.
And do it in such a convincing fashion.
Absolutely. And to make them, they feel real good about themselves right now. Defensively, we've talked about this last week. They're just fantastic on defense. Now, I think Lamar's going to be a test because Lamar can score some points.
So I guess we'll see that. And also, do you think it's good if Van does get a win 5-0, even though your record doesn't count and going in district play? Is that some type of hype that you can roll on?
Definitely. They probably, just like every other team, they want to go undefeated. And the big test for them will be to keep it going through district and once they get into the playoffs to actually make some noise in the playoffs instead of just going a round or two deep.
Their offense is impressive too. I mean, they're putting up big time yards, big time points, quarterback, running back. So it's not. And Van's always been good. They've always had a really good team. I think this year might be the team that surprises a lot of people because we really weren't talking about Van in our preview before this season started because they had such an up and down season last year between non-district and district.
Yeah, I guess that's something to look out for. Another game we got to talk about is Lindale starts their district tonight as well against Corsicana. Now they did have a bye week last week, so it gave them a little more time to get prepared for this game. But how do you think the Eagles are going to fare tonight?
Yeah, they're really going to be eager to get back on that field after that bye week. They really want to start off district with a win. Last year they snuck in the playoffs just barely, and beating Corsicana would be huge for them if they want to try to make the playoffs this year. Corsicana is a good team, but they're beatable. Corsicana likes to run the ball, and it will be up to Lindale's rush defense to come out with the win.
You'd hate to call this a must-win in the first game of the season, but when you look at Lindale in that district, Ennis, Lufkin, John Tyler, Nacogdoches, White House, they better get this one.
Yeah.
They really better get this one just to start feeling good about themselves. And it's, I believe it's at home as well. So I mean, they really have to get this one.
Yeah, it's 1-3 record right now. You kind of think you're getting a little down in the dumps. But we can move on now. Chapel Hill again as well. They've had a tough non-district schedule, as you said about Lindale as well. They got Tatum, which is another game they had before their district play starts. Tatum did come back from Gilmer being down 27-7 in the fourth quarter. Came back and tied that game. It seems like Tatum's going to be a tough team for Chapel Hill.
Yeah, two very physical football teams, and they like to play defense and like to play physical football. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of which half comes out. I mean, Chapel Hill doesn't have to take a backseat to anybody when they're playing White House and Lindale and their non-district schedule as well, and then Paris. But anytime you can hold Gilmer to 20, even hold Gilmer to 28 points or whatever it was. I mean, anytime you can stay with Gilmer, that definitely raises some eyebrows because Gilmer's offense has just been a juggernaut. So I think it's going to. You've got two physical teams, two good defensive teams. Usually games like this come down to turnovers.
Yeah, for Chapel Hill, it's just another game in the gauntlet. They've played three Class 5A teams, and the one 4A team they played, they beat. So I think playing a team more their size, I think they're going to be a little better suited, and it will be a good preparation for them heading into a pretty tough district.
Now, do you think this tough non-district schedule is beating Chapel Hill down too much, or is it going to be able for them to rise come district?
No, I think they're embracing it. They want to get ready for a tough district because they know every game in district is going to be tough. And that's kind of the mindset they're taking.
Yeah, I think for other teams, it might hurt them. But Chapel Hill's, they're tried, tested. They understand what the situation is and how difficult league play is going to be. So they expect to just roll right into this. So at least now, I think I think this was a good move by Coach Sitton because it had been really hard to come off a lollipop and then go straight into a very difficult district game. Tatum's going to give them all they want, and then they just keep that same intensity and that same level now once district starts.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's take a quick break. When we return from our sponsor, Travis is going to break down JT, and we're going to have Chris break down the Red Raiders.
At Kelly Community Federal Credit Union, we have a monopoly on savings. So cruise on over to a Kelly Community branch today for big savings on loan rates and better earnings on deposits and investments.
At Kelly Community.
Welcome back to ETFinalScore.com. Friday's preview show, as we're just looking to bring you some local stats, some insight on the games taking place tonight. Now let's move on a little bit and talk a little bit about John Tyler. They had a bye week last week. Now they're taking the field this week. What can we expect from Coach Holmes, what he's done for this off time to get his team geared up for the first district game?
Coming off a loss going into the bye week, it's always tough how the team's going to react. Coach Holmes said he thinks it's a good thing for them to kind of, take what what happened in the loss and learn from it and kind of digest it until you have a little time to get ready for White House coming up in the district opener. So for Coach Holmes, he thinks it's a good thing to have that bye heading into White House game, which is always going to be one of the biggest games of the year.
Travis, I bet that they love the first half film. The first half film between John Tyler and Lee, print it, cut it, put it up there because that was perfect. It was the second half with just mistakes and turnovers and things like that. So I mean, if they play like the way they played in the first half against Lee, I think White House is in trouble, even in White House. I really do. I think John Tyler, this is their chance to really put their stamp on this district in this first game.
Well, last year when John Tyler played White House, they lost 55-54. White House also had Patrick Mahomes, who threw for 5 touchdowns. What is so different besides Patrick Mahomes of this White House team that makes them so, I guess, maybe vulnerable?
Well, I don't know if they are that vulnerable. They've kept rolling with Jackson Allen stepping in at quarterback. They've got kind of a new receiver core. They've just kept rolling. They've been impressive going to 3-0 to start the season. They maybe John Tyler will be the biggest test to date, but it's I wouldn't put anything past them.
Yeah, this is a show me game, I think, for White House. They're 3-0. It's not easy to go to Sulphur Springs. It's not easy to go to Texas High, and they won they won those games. But this is a show me game. John Tyler is going to be very revved up, coming off a loss to White House last year, which ended their undefeated district run. I believe this game should be fun.
Yeah, and John Tyler players were saying earlier last week that of all games, this is the game that White House players are going to get up most for. And so you can expect a good battle on Friday night.
Now, what kind of game plan should we expect from the Lions for them to pull out a win? You saw how they played against Lee that first half. Looked great. What do you both think?
Really it's going to be about 2 things. 1, getting that running game established, and 2, holding on to the ball when they do. They lost a couple fumbles in that loss to Lee that were pivotal, right at the start of the second half. If they don't fumble right at the start of the half, they probably or maybe go down and score, and it's a completely different situation.
What do you think, Chris?
I think that John Tyler has the offensive weapons to get this job done, and I believe that Wilson is the real deal at running back. Robert E. Lee couldn't stop him. And all he has to do, and really all the Lions have to do, is just exactly what Travis said, hang on to the football, make sure when you're in the red zone you put points on the board, and do what they've done on defense, which is turn it over and pick sixes and just and find other ways to score.
Their defense has been amazing at defensive touchdown. Bryson Gibson has 3 of his own and 4 fumble recoveries and an interception. He's been outstanding for the JT defense.
Well, John Tyler at White House, their first district game of the season. We will have live clips coming in from that game at ETFinalScore.com or on our app. Now let's move on a little bit, talk about Lee. They're going to play the Rowlett Eagles tonight as well. What can we expect from the Red Raiders, Chris?
Well, talking to Coach Piskey, he expects a team that is really good on defense. Rowlett is the complete opposite of Garland-Saxe in the fact that Garland-Saxe is all about offense and Rowlett has been all about defense. So that I think this is going to be a good test for Lee. Go on the road. First district game on the road. They haven't played on the road since Lufkin. They've had 2 home games, John Tyler and Garland-Saxe. Zach Hall getting a lot of adulation and awards, which he deserves based on his performance. But now you got to take that next step and try to move to 2-0 for the first time since 2002. Robert E. Lee has not been 2-0 in district.
Man, now what if Zach Hall is bottled up where his running game shut down? How well can we see from the Red Raiders passing?
I believe that they've shown they've got 8 to 10 different receivers and different guys they can get the ball to, jet sweeps, things like that are going to make things very difficult for Rowlett. What do you think, Travis?
Yeah, in the second half against JT, they really worked the passing lanes pretty well, and I think if they can continue that, they can find some passing game success.
Now, I know you feel like the Red Raiders are going to come out on top. How do you feel about it, Travis?
I think the way they've been playing, you'd put them to beat just about anyone in that district.
So if I had to guess, I would say Travis says John Tyler is going to win tonight, and Chris is going to say the Red Raiders are going to win tonight. So, guys, I thank you for being here today. Thank you for your time, giving some of our fans some insight for Friday Night Football. That's going to wrap up this Friday's pregame show. We thank you for joining us today and allowing us to keep you informed with surrounding games. Be sure tonight, if you can't make it to the game of your choice or simply because you can only be in one place at one time, allow us to keep you updated. We have more faces and more places than any other team in East Texas. Tonight we will have live audio and highlight clips from multiple games. We also have these two guys and several others tweeting out scores. Check out ET Final Score on Twitter and Facebook for all the action, or download our app in the App Store, which will also be jam-packed with plays and the most accurate and up-to-date scoreboard in East Texas. Enjoy your Friday night football. We'll see you next week.